Welcome back. Time to find out more about that match between the Super Eagles and the Red Lions in sports news with Charles Aruka.
You're spot on, Amarachi. Welcome to Sports News. Nigeria's preparations for the 2018 FIFA World Cup qualifiers continue with a 3-1 victory over Luxembourg today in an international friendly. Brown Ideye found the back of the net on his return to the Super Eagles fold in the 36th minute after hitting a rebound. Kelechi Iheanacho scored Nigeria's second goal in the game, but later on Luxembourg's Till Vincent reduced the tally after a defensive slip by Kenneth Omeru. The Super Eagles put the game beyond their opponent's reach with Odion Igalo's goal in the 91st minute to give the Salisu Yusuf-led coaching crew 2 wins from 2 matches. The Under-23 team have arrived in Korea as Dream Team 6 prepare for their opening game of the Suwon Invitational Tournament on Thursday. Coach Samson Siasia left with 19 players following the late withdrawal of defender Segun Odudua owing to injury. The team will have their first training session on Wednesday morning ahead of their first match against host South Korea on June the 2nd. After the tournament in Korea, the team will leave for Manchester for a training session before heading to Atlanta, United States for the final leg of preparations for the Rio Games. In Europe, Borussia Dortmund forward Marco Reus has been dropped from Germany's squad for Euro 2016 in a shock move by coach Joachim Löw. Reus missed the friendly defeat to Slovakia with an adductor problem, whose severity only became clear when Löw unveiled his squad earlier today. Löw had to cull 4 players and also dropped Karim Bellarabi, Sebastian Rudy and Julian Brandt. Manchester United midfielder Bastian Schweinsteiger makes the squad despite his injury struggles and will captain Germany in France. In tennis, Andy Murray's French Open quarter-final meeting with Richard Gasquet has been moved back to Wednesday after wet weather restricted play. Serena Williams' match against Elina Svitolina was also postponed due to the heavy downpour. World number 1 Novak Djokovic fought back from a set down to take control against Roberto Bautista Agut when rain stopped play at the French Open. He recovered an early deficit to lead 3-6, 6-4, 4-1 when the 4th round match was interrupted for a second and final time. Elsewhere, the German Olympic Sports Confederation says every athlete will be tested en route to Rio for the Olympic Games as a consequence of the doping scandal. The German Olympic body has nominated the first athletes for the Olympic Games in Rio de Janeiro, which will take place in August 2016. Among them are the medalists from London, Christina Vogel and Miriam Welter, as well as Petra Jopik and Rene Enders. All in all, 450 athletes are expected to travel to Rio de Janeiro. Meanwhile, the World Health Organization has backed the decision to reject calls to postpone or cancel the Rio Olympics because of the Zika virus. Over 100 leading scientists claim it would be unethical for the Games to go ahead as scheduled, barely 4 months to the Games. The WHO says it is in constant talks with the local organizing committee for the Rio Games on how to manage the situation when the Games begin in August. That's it on Sports News. Back to Amarachi with the rest of the news at 10.
Thanks a lot, Charles. Greek and Czech police say more than 20 suspects involving forging travel documents for Europe-bound migrants are now in their custody. The said documents, which include visas and passports, were being sold for as high as £2,500 across the EU, Africa and the Middle East and Asia. The police is still searching for at least 100 more suspects involved in the crime. Meanwhile, the Islamic State has launched a counter-attack as Iraqi government troops push into the city of Fallujah. Pt.4 Fagbemi has more on this and other stories from the foreign scene.
Their scores of ISIS fighters attacked them a day after troops advanced through the southern suburb of Normiya. The army defeated the attackers but suffered casualties. Meanwhile, aid workers are increasingly concerned for the safety of 50,000 civilians said to be trapped in Fallujah. Reports say people are starving to death and many are being killed for refusing to fight ISIS. In the meantime, at least 23 people have been killed by airstrikes on the rebel-held city of Idlib in northwestern Syria. The UK-based Syrian Observatory for Human Rights says Russian aircraft targeted various positions overnight. Finally, Côte d'Ivoire's former First Lady, Simone Gbagbo, has gone on trial to face charges of crimes against humanity and war crimes for alleged role in a 2011 civil war. The court case comes after the government rejected her extradition to the International Court in The Hague. Her husband, ex-President Laurent Gbagbo, is already before the International Criminal Court on charges linked to the brief conflict, which was sparked by his refusal to accept defeat to Alassane Ouattara in a runoff election in late 2010. And that's the foreign news wrap-up. It's back to you, Amarachi.
Thank you, Tope. And the main news again. The Inspector General of Police, Mr. Solomon Arase, today took a step towards a crackdown on pro-Biafra activists. The IGP ordered the disarming of members of the Independent People of Biafra following violent protests in the southeast and Delta states. The federal government is set to commence an environmental cleanup of Ogoni land as recommended in a UNEP report. The Minister of Environment, Amina Mohammed, today visited a cleanup demonstration site in Bodo Gokana local government area of Rivers State. And in Europe, Czech and Greek police today arrested suspected members of a syndicate specializing in forging travel documents for migrants attempting to enter Europe. That's the 10 tonight. Thanks for watching. I am Amarachi Ubani. Good night.